As you know, Ben Crump is representing the estate of Tyre Nichols, the FedEx worker, father, son, black man who was killed in Memphis, Tennessee earlier this year. This would be back in January 2023. The officers are facing criminal charges, and most of them have submitted motions to the court so that they don't have to file an answer yet on the civil action, the civil lawsuit, which is entirely separate from this criminal case, which is second degree murder, aggravated kidnapping, aggravated assault, and some other things. So we now have the civil lawsuit out here, and I'm going to go over one of the answers from the EMT who was on site, Jamichael Sandridge. Now, the thing about the answer is, wait until you see it. It's very long. It's about 92 pages because they go through and respond to every single paragraph, which is what you're supposed to do. You don't want to leave anything out and then have the opposition come back and say, hey, well, then by default, you must be in agreement with that because you did not deny it and you didn't respond to it. So they do go through numbering every single paragraph and responding to it. Let me pull up, first of all, this complaint that was filed on behalf of the family. And like I said before, Ben Crump is representing the family here. And you can see that here, estate of Tyre DeAndre Nichols. And that's his mother, who is the administrator of his estate. And then, of course, you'll see all of the parties listed who are being sued in this civil complaint. And I'm just scrolling so fast here. There are all of the parties who are listed, all of the defendants. And in this case, you will see Jamichael Sandridge here. Now, one of the things that they did in this lawsuit against him was to have this preliminary statement that goes through all of the details here. If you have not had a chance to read this, you can check out my video on that. I go through all of this so that you can see it. It's very long, this preliminary statement that gives the background. And so you can see some of what they talk about here. They talk about the disturbingly tragic events that happened, the hiring of Chief Davis, the Scorpion unit, and then the actions that happened the night of January 7th and all of that. They also include some pictures with that. And then we get into jurisdiction and venue. And this is when, in the lawsuit against Jamichael Sandridge, which I'm going to go to now, this is where they basically start to answer what you see here. And like I said, this is 92 pages. You can see that there. 92 pages that it takes for them to respond to this complaint. All right, let's jump in. And this is actually going to be fast. Okay, this is going to be fast. 92 pages. You're never going to see somebody go through 92 pages like I'm getting ready to do. But first of all, let's tackle through a few of these. You'll see everyone listed there. Now comes the defendant, Jamichael Sandridge. Mr. Sandridge submits this answer to plaintiff's complaint at law. It says, Mr. Sandridge denies, I'm going to highlight that, Mr. Sandridge denies each and every allegation in plaintiff's complaint, not specifically admitted as though each such denial was set forth word for word herein. So they're saying outright, we deny everything, and you're going to have to prove the allegations that you're making in that complaint. And this is where it starts. All right, these denials. Now, here's the thing. Typically what you're going to do when you're filing a response to a complaint, you're going to go through, have each one numbered, and you're going to say, hey, there's some things we admit, there's some things we deny, there's some things we don't have enough information about to say one way or the other. In those cases, those are usually statements that are based on something outside of the control or knowledge of the defendants. Like, there's no way I would know where you were born, that sort of thing. Now, these first ones are usually something that you can admit because they usually have to do with where you live, where you reside, making sure that the court has jurisdiction. And in this case, this is exactly what you see here. you see him admitting paragraph 1, and I'm going to go back to that in just a second so you can see it. So Mr. Sandridge is admitting paragraph 1, 2, and paragraph 3. Now let me flip back over to see what these actually are. You will see these are statements about jurisdiction, that these are federal questions, that the venue is proper in this court because everyone resides in the state of Tennessee, and then because all incidents occurred in Memphis, Tennessee. So the defendant is admitting all of those. But now, after that, let me scroll down so you can see what's coming up next. The parties, it gets into who these people are. So look at this. Number 2, for instance, was appointed, as the administratrix ad litem of the estate. Well, the defendant might not know that. So that would be one of those things the defendant might say, I don't really know. Number 7, who he's survived by. Those are the sorts of things where you might say, well, I don't know. So let's flip back over to Jamichael Sandridge's answer. And this is exactly what you see. Defendant is without sufficient knowledge. Defendant is without sufficient knowledge. Now let me start to scroll through this. And you're going to see this a lot. There's something admitted in paragraph 8. Again, it's probably something very factual, having nothing to do with the circumstances and actions that occurred on the night of January 7th. Again, you see not sufficient knowledge. And this is why I said that this is probably going to be the quickest thing you ever did see. Now you can see something is admitted here in paragraph 17. And again, we can pop back over and see what that is. But you probably understand now what I'm saying when I say the things that get admitted are things that are pretty obvious. Anything else is either going to be denied or it's going to be we don't have enough information to be able to make a statement about that. And so this is the one that was admitted when the chief was, I guess, hired here, was appointed. Well, there's probably a date out there on the record of when that happened. So there's no point in denying that. You can just say, okay, that's admitted. We check that. Now let me go back to the rest of Mr. Sandridge's answer. Again, without sufficient knowledge, without sufficient knowledge, without sufficient knowledge, without sufficient knowledge. And this goes on and on and on. Factual allegations, you see a lot of the same thing here. I mean, this is pretty much the answer. Okay, you're going to see this a lot in here. As I scroll through, you can see that that's pretty much what it is. And then in some instances too, I want to point one other thing out. You'll also see this sort of language in here that says, well, I guess I highlighted the wrong thing there. The part that's not highlighted, let's look at it that way. To the extent defendant's rights may be affected, he demands strict proof thereof. So prove what it is you're saying in some of these allegations that you're making in this complaint. But as you can see, I can scroll all the way through this. I'm on page 21 now. And you can see that basically they're saying, we don't know, we don't know, we don't know. Yeah, just without sufficient knowledge all the way through this document. There are very few times where you see a list of him now saying, yes, we admit something, really and truly without sufficient knowledge. And then we get to the end where he starts to deny some things. So let me flip back over so we can see what he's denying in 771 and 772 and those numbers. We're almost at the end. 771, here we go. At all relevant times, Robert Long interacted with him. Tyre Nichols was suffering from injuries so obvious that even a lay person would have easily recognized the necessity for medical attention. Every reasonable EMT would have known that Tyre Nichols objectively required medical attention after observing the following conditions. He was unable to communicate or speak. He was unable to hold himself up in a seated position. He was bleeding from his face and his body, and his wounds were unattended. He was unable to keep his eyes open. He passed in and out of consciousness. Even a lay person would have known that Tyre Nichols was suffering from severe medical needs and necessitated medical treatment. So you can see that this is what they're talking about down here in the 772, 3, 4. in the complaint. So when I flip back over to the answer, you can see that that is what they are specifically denying here. Because these are things that actually directly relate to responsibilities of the EMT. And they are saying, hey, okay, so I do have knowledge about this. So they aren't saying that. They're actually saying, no, we deny that even a lay person would have seen this. We deny. And that's basically what they're saying. And then we have some more denies there. Same sort of thing. Once it gets into really saying what they did and didn't do, that's when you see the denials come in. Very, very few. You're not going to see any admits down up in here unless it's something pertaining to the facts. Again, you see just all of these denials in here. 892. Let's flip back over and see what those are in the 890s. This is almost the end. So they're asking for money damages. This is what this is. That's what that's covering. Then we get to the end, and he's saying he's immune under the Tennessee Governmental Tort Liability Act, his qualified immunity, and that he did exercise a degree of care, skill, and diligence in his job, and that he did not commit any negligence or breach of duty. So that's pretty much it. As you can see, like I said before, that was going to be pretty fast in terms of 90 something pages, because what you're doing is you're going to admit statements regarding jurisdiction or venue, statements regarding facts that can be proven, that you know to be true, that both parties are likely not going to contest or have opposing viewpoints or perspectives on. Other than that, if you're the defendant, you want them to prove their case. And so that's why you see nothing in here. They're not going to admit anything. They're going to make them take it to trial and prove everything that they're alleging in this complaint. And again, this is just the one for Jamichael Sandridge, who was one of the EMTs who were on site and who provided some level of medical assistance to Mr. Tyre Nichols. So I hope that brings you up to speed on where that is. We're now starting to take a look at these answers that got filed. I'm also going to be looking at some of the motions to stay where they're saying, hey, we really can't respond now because we've got a criminal trial going on. The EMTs are not necessarily a part of that, and so we don't see them asking for a stay. But the police officers are saying, hey, we're asking for a stay. If this brings you up to speed, go ahead and please give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.